that time of the week again for Sterlo's wrap-up. Great to be with you after 22 rounds of the competition, just 3 to go, and the man himself alongside me. Good to see you, Pete.
And you, James. It's been a slow start to the week compared to last week. I think things might start to ramp up a little.
It is rugby league. 24 hours is a long time. Speaking of which, let's head back to Thursday night. Townsville was the scene for the opening match of Women in League round. The Cowboys, a win. They got out of jail late, but still not enough to stop them from being bottom spot after the round.
No, crazy to think, isn't it? They have a win over big brother, the Broncos, and all of a sudden they're down in 16th position. This man was unbelievable. Jason Taumalolo was the best player on the paddock. 8 of the last 9 meetings between these clubs have had a margin of 6 points or less. 4 of them, 1-pointers. This one, another remarkable finish. And Jonathan Thurston, in his last derby match, came up with the goods of late. His last derby match, 300 games for Sam Thaiday, just the 33rd player to do so, 15 of those players at the one club. So it's been a marvellous career for him, but not a great night for him. But wonderful performance from North Queensland, because I thought 20 minutes into the second half, they were gone. A 12-point lead to the Brisbane Broncos at that stage. They had all the momentum. That turned when Taumalolo, Scott, McLean all got back into the action. And Paul Green, he timed his interchanges to perfection.
Certainly did in the end. 34 points to 30 the way of the Cowboys on Thursday night. The early kick-off on Saturday evening, the Warriors and the Knights. Look, the Warriors now confirmed a final spot with a 20 points to 4 win. Are they premiership contenders, though? Are you seeing enough from them yet, Pete?
Well, they have to be, just because they're there and we know what they can do with their best football. My concern for the Warriors is, can they consistently put it together for a month against the very best sides, which you have to do in that in those final 4 games. But I loved the fact Sean Johnson last week, when they beat the Dragons, came out and said, look, you know, don't care what anybody else says. We know we're a top 4 side. We know what we are capable of. And he exuded confidence. Now, if Sean Johnson's speaking that way, everyone will go along with him. This was a comfortable win over Newcastle. It wasn't a big scoreline. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck was fantastic, so that's a great sign as well. If their best players are playing at their top, then they can worry anyone, and they have done all year.
All right, the match after that, we're hoping to be a flowing affair between 2 teams that we know can score some points. Yet the best attacking side in terms of tries in the Rabbitohs against the best defensive side in the Roosters. 18-14 the Roosters, beating a South Sydney side that a week earlier had upset Melbourne. Yeah,
I said after this game that it wasn't a great game, but it was a great contest. And both of these sides will get better. We know Luke Keary comes back into the South Sydney side fairly soon, and the Rooster side, I'm sorry. And they are a better side with him outside of Cooper Cronk. They link better with James Tedesco and the outside backs. And, of course, Greg Inglis is still to come back for the Rabbits as well. So there's some really good things to look forward to. Couldn't have had a worse start to the game, the Roosters. They dropped the ball from the kickoff. But defensively, they were outstanding. No side was able to sort of get momentum in regards to scoring. It was tit-for-tat scoring. It wasn't. What you want to do, especially in these big games, is score. If you score one try, you want to get the next one and maybe the next one, and all of a sudden you get away on the scoreboard. That never happened in this game. The big thing was the defensive effort from the Roosters. Fantastic once again. And as I keep saying, it's the best foundation you can have going into finals football, and the Roosters have that.
The early kick-off Saturday, Pete, always going to be some intrigue surrounding this one, with the Panthers under their caretaker coach, Kevin Ciraldo, following the sacking of Anthony Griffin. And look, you talk about the Cowboys getting out of jail. I think the Panthers, well, they're the masters of it. 17-16 in golden points.
Well, it's 3 weekends in a row now that they've gone. You know, they had too big a deficit to make up what you would have thought on all of those occasions, yet they've managed to find points. The first half was diabolical. They were terrible. But the Gold Coast Titans weren't much better. And even with 8 minutes to go, they weren't getting out of trouble in this one. They weren't. It was only until that Dean Farray try, which we just scored, and this try here in the final moment, which sent it into golden point. Nathan Cleary misses the kick. You know, like he's not going to miss that. So it was just a bizarre game at the end of a bizarre week. And I don't like picking out individual players, but what I will say, James, in the final play of the game, when your side is in front and there's one left, you don't rush out of the line like Jared Wallace just did then. You stay back. You don't present a staggered line, and you let the opposition make the decision. Now, when Wallace raced up on James Maloney, it forced his hand, and all of a sudden kick hours between 2 players. Wonga Blake balances the football beautifully and then finds Watene Zelezniak, who was the right winger. He's come a long way across the side of the field to score that try. But if Jarrus Wallace holds, I'm not saying that they wouldn't have scored the try, but I think it would have been harder for the Panthers to come up with that particular play, it was the last play in regular time. It was the last tackle, 20 seconds to go. They only had to present a good defensive line, hold them out for that one tackle. They win the game. In the end, we saw golden point. And congratulations to Nathan Cleary after missing that conversion in real time to step up twice to say, I'll take the responsibility of trying to nail the match winner. And he did.
Did just that. Look, the Seagulls, back-to-back wins for a team that's been battling, going okay. Beating a Bulldogs side 18-6 that had beaten the Broncos the previous week, Pete.
Yeah, they've had some good wins away from home, and you saw their Remus miss scoring the first try for the Bulldogs. But then it was the Trebojevic brothers. Tommy got a double in this game, and he was the difference in many, many ways. Cherry Evans, I thought, was very, very good once again. Front rowers, Fanua Blake, he's had a tremendous season. And again, you know, the Bulldogs were competitive. They weren't as good as they were the previous week against South Sydney. Always going to be difficult to reproduce that kind of performance. They didn't do so against Manly. So a comfortable win for middle of the table sides.
Let's talk about the later kick-off on Saturday night. You'll be happy about this one. 40 points to 4. The Eels upsetting the Dragons, getting themselves out of the wooden spoon spot. Jared Hayne, the first half hat-trick. Mitchell Moses has one of his best games of the season. How do you sum up this win against the Dragons side on the slide?
It was comprehensive. They never looked in doubt, and much was made of the fact that they had enjoyed a 7-1 penalty count going into half-time. I have to say, they earned those penalties. You know, that was, you didn't go away thinking that the opposition, the Dragons, had been dudded in those calls. Parramatta was so much on top. Jared Hayne, as you pointed out, 3 tries before half-time. It took him past Brett Kenny on the all-time try scorer list for Parramatta. That's big. I got played alongside Brett Kenny. He's one of the true greats of the club. So he's in pursuit now of Luke Burt, and if he plays for Parramatta next year, you would think that he would probably rein in that 124 tries that Burt has next to his name. So that would be the culmination of a great career for Parramatta. But I thought they were great, and I thought the reshuffle worked really well. Corey Norman was excellent at fullback. Mitchell Moses, clearly his best game, and I think he really enjoyed the fact that he was the main playmaker because he had young Salmon alongside him, 19-year-old, his first run-on game. He did what he needed to do, and that wasn't a whole lot because the guys around him made his run-on debut game in first grade a pretty comfortable one. Won't always be that case. But the combinations out there worked beautifully. And, and you've got to wonder now if they might look to keep Corey Norman. They might consider to have him as the number 1 from here on in. And Salmon might be the number 6. Now, as I say, this was kind of a great night for everybody. They know it won't always be like this. But I'm sure Brad Arthur went away in a very positive frame of mind and also with a real thought as to what am I going to do in the future. Nathan Brown was excellent as well in the number 13.
The Dragons, I think it's 5 losses from their last 6. No Gareth Widdop now. Is that premiership hopes over?
Look, I think it puts a huge, huge dent. Yeah, I can't write them off because they're a really good football side. This is the first time they've been outside of the top 4. They've done a lot of things right this year. But everything's going wrong at the wrong time. You know, they had no injury concerns for the majority of the year. They've now lost Gareth Widdop for an extended period, it would appear. And Paul Vaughan looks like he's on the sidelines for another 3 or 4 weeks as well. You know, they're 2 really influential players in their side. Without them, I think they continue to struggle.
OK, let's head to Sunday, the early kick-off, Pete. This one seeing the Tigers 22 beating the Raiders 20. And with this win and that Broncos loss, it means they're within 2 points of the top 8 with 3 games to go.
Critical that they won this game, and they had to hold off a very fast finishing Canberra Raiders because the Tigers got away to a great start. They scored 3 tries while BJ Leilua was in the sin bin, so they took real advantage of that. But then they had to hang on. Now, as we sit here, there is a 24-point differential between them and Brisbane. Brisbane take on South Sydney this weekend. The West Tigers take on the Dragons. Now, if the West Tigers can take advantage of the struggling Dragons and South Sydney can bounce back and play their best football, all of a sudden, we're looking at a really different scenario going into the last 2 weeks. The West Tigers are a realistic chance of bumping the Broncos out of the 8. And what a wonderful 3 weeks coming up just to see how that formalisation of the 8 is confirmed.
Just proves it's never over.
Until it's over.
Spot on. It's going to be a great final 3 weeks. The 22nd round wrapped up yesterday afternoon. Always a beauty between these two. The Storm hosting the Sharks and Cronulla 17-14. Pete, they just got this way of being able to shut down the best in the business at doing just that.
It was the best game of the weekend. I loved every second of it. And the Melbourne Storm got away to the worst opening 20-25 minutes I think I can recall ever from them. They are normally so good out of the blocks, especially at home. Maybe Cronulla do that too. I don't know. Will Chambers, they hadn't had any football for 15 minutes. He kicked second tackle. It was just weird stuff that you don't associate with the Melbourne Storm. But the Cronulla Sharks were wonderful in this game. And again, if I'm wrapping the defence of the Roosters, the second half performance defensively from the Sharks in this game was phenomenal. Now, and they had to be, because Melbourne threw plenty at them. When this kick went over from Jerome Hughes and Billy Slater doesn't get the bounce, you're starting to think, maybe it's not going to be the Storm's afternoon, because that was a great play. It just didn't get the result that it deserved. Billy Slater herring through. He's clearly going to win the race to the ball if he gets a half-decent bounce. But have a look at these next two efforts in stopping Melbourne from scoring. Unbelievable. Curtis Scott here, he looks certain to score. Look at the defence get over. And then Joe Stimson.
Oh. How did that not touch the grass?
He is millimetres away from scoring that try. Now, on all of those occasions there, they were 3 points behind. They would have gone to the front, Melbourne. We know that they are fantastic leaders, especially at Amy Park. Cronulla just stopped them from doing so. And in the end, Josh Dugan scored just after that down the other end and wrapped the game up, but pretty much. Great performance from Cronulla and a really good finish to what was an intriguing round 22.
It was a beauty. Thank you, Pete. Good to catch up.
James.
There's Sterlo's wrap-up for the 22nd round of the competition. 3 to go, and the 23rd round kicks off live on 9 this Thursday night. The Broncos playing host to the Rabbitohs.